Welcome to our special coverage where we bring you the latest stories shaping our world. International efforts to resolve the Syrian crisis are intensifying, highlighted by the visit of a U.S. delegation to Damascus and the Turkish President Erdogan's upcoming trip. Elsewhere, the U.S. brought tensions to the forefront once again with China by announcing the new U.S. military aid to Taiwan. But for now, let's start with the latest developments in Syria. BNN Bloomberg has reported that the recent fall of Bashar al-Assad has sparked significant shifts in Syria's geopolitical landscape, particularly with Israel and Turkey asserting influence in the country. Israel has advanced into the Golan Heights, a disputed region it seized from Syria in 1967. Meanwhile, Turkey has expanded its presence in northern Syria. Ankara is also striving to shape Syria's post-Assad political landscape, driven by concerns over refugee influx and potential economic opportunities. Both nations are reshaping the future political structure of Syria, with Turkey aiming to influence its reconstruction while Israel monitors the situation closely along its borders. The shift in control raises questions about the future governance of Syria and regional peace prospects. Hayat Tahrir al-Sham has solidified its control over Syria's new interim government by appointing two key figures to crucial positions following the fall of Bashar al-Assad. Asad al-Shibani, with experience in political affairs, was named the foreign minister. Al-Shibani, who helped establish the Syrian Salvation Government in 2017, has been pivotal in managing HTS's relations with international bodies and humanitarian agencies. Morhaf Abu Qasra and Hayat Tahrir al-Sham military commander was appointed defense minister. These appointments underscore Hayat Tahrir al-Sham's growing influence in Syria's future governance as it assumes greater control over the country's political and military landscape. Israeli occupation forces have continued operations along the Syria-Israel ceasefire line in the Golan Heights after the United Nations Security Council extended its long-running peacekeeping mission between both sides. The UN mission was extended for 6 months, with the Security Council expressing concern that military activities in the area could escalate tensions. And to provide more analysis, we are joined by Dr. Mohammed Faiz Farhat, a chairman of Al Ahram Foundation Board of Directors from Cairo. And welcome. And we'd like to ask you, first of all, what are the key objectives, do you think, of the U.S. delegation's visit to Damascus in the context of Syria's political transition?
Greetings, everybody. In fact, what's happened in Syria over the last weeks represents a great transformation and transition, and the current American administration has neglected the Syrian subject quite substantially because of some balances of power in Syria and for some considerations there too. We all know the Russian influence in Syria and the influence of other regional forces inside Syria, which all led to this American stance. And in fact, regarding the ouster of, or after the ouster of the Bashar al-Assad regime, a lot of sects and factions inside Syria are trying to formulate the Syrian future. And so the American administration is trying to be more reactive right now to the Syrian subject and to voice out its stances within the upcoming Syrian equation. In fact, an Arab interest remains predicated upon the stability of the Syrian state. And there is a great need to contain and include all Syrian sects and factions and to have them all work in harmony in order to maintain the sovereignty of the Syrian state.
Dr. Farhat, how do you see Turkey's interests in Syria aligning with those of the US and other regional actors following Assad's fall?
In fact, there are definitely Turkish interests inside Syria. We know the Kurd subject. There are Kurd forces inside Syria, and there is Turkish opposition inside Syria as well. And so Turkey has a great interest in guaranteeing that this Kurd presence does not turn into an imminent jeopardy for Turkish interests inside Syria. In addition to that, Turkey wants to influence the transitional operation inside Syria. And it's not just Syria that actually wants to influence this transitional phase. In fact, after the ouster of al-Assad, some international forces have their different interests inside Syria. Some of these interests could actually be contradicting as well. But in light of the political vacuum inside of Syria, it is only natural for us to see different international forces, in fact, wanting or competing to influence the inside of Syria and its political considerations.
And in what ways do you think that the US strategy or approach to Syria might change under the new presidential administration?
In fact, there are, of course, different tools that the US can use. The US, of course, in fact, didn't do anything to stop the Israeli offensives inside Syria. And this is something that needs thorough analysis. And in addition to that, there are direct relations between the new actors inside Syria, and this has become evident recently. And we have seen the United States trying to establish new relations with different parties and sects inside Syria. There is another mechanism that has to do with the political operations that are going to be launched inside Syria in the coming transitional phase. In fact, if these operations transitional operations got hurdled and impeded, this is going to open a gateway to different forces to actually start influencing this operation. And one of these forces, of course, is the United States. In fact, we know that when regimes fall down, this always opens the door for more influence tools to be embodied, tools that can alter and cause detours regarding the political operations. And this usually predicates upon a number of tools and variables. First, or the first of which is the grassroots ability to maintain a stable political operation and the existence of calibers that are able to actually lead this political transitional phase and to minimize the foreign interference.
Dr. Farhat, let me move on to my next question, which is how do you think can the international community ensure that the new Syrian government respects minority rights and promotes inclusivity?
This is a great question, in fact. But in fact, when in retro, when we go back to previous experiences, whether inside of the Middle East or outside of it, we will find that the international community has never really had the ability per se to force or to guarantee the smoothness of the political transitional phase and to guarantee that it is done in a way that guarantees social inclusion. In fact, there are variables inside of the region and outside of it that attest to that. In fact, the matters are left usually to national actors to combat their issues and hurdles. We, of course, aspire, in the case of Syria, that the international community executes on a different approach, because Syria demographically and geopolitically has a very strategic stature, which requires international neutral stance in order for the political operation in Syria to be carried out and maintained in a way that guarantees social inclusion, political inclusion, and adherence to the provisions of international laws. We can see that the scene inside of Syria right now can actually can be replete with some challenges. And we aspire that the international community recognizes that and to actually deal with the Syrian subject in a way that benefits from regional and interregional previous experiences, the nuances of which are actually similar to the Syrians, in order for us to have, that
was Dr. Mohammed Faiz Farhat, the chairman of Al Ahram Foundation Board of Directors, with us. Thank you so much, Dr. Farhat, for your insights. And now let's move to Taiwan, where the U.S.-China relations are heated due to the U.S. announcement of the new military aid package to Taiwan. Almost a month before the president-elect Donald Trump takes office, the U.S. announced on Friday the potential sale of the upgraded tactical data link systems and gun mounts for ships to Taiwan valued at around $295 million. The U.S. President Joe Biden approved $571.3 million in defense assistance for Taiwan, the White House confirmed on Friday. Separately, the U.S. Defense Department announced that $295 million in military sales had been approved. This marks the 19th arms sale approved by President Joe Biden's administration to Taiwan.
In accordance with the Taiwan Relations Act and
And in response, China criticized the new U.S. military aid to Taiwan, stating that the $571 million package seriously violates the One China principle and will to lead consequences for the U.S. According to The Independent, China has warned the U.S. that sending weapons to Taiwan is like playing with fire and risks several consequences. A spokesperson for the Chinese Foreign Ministry stated that China will take all necessary measures to protect its sovereignty and territorial integrity, calling Taiwan a red line that must not be crossed in China-U.S. relations. The newspaper added that Beijing urged Washington to immediately stop arming Taiwan and cease the dangerous actions that undermine peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. And delving more into this, joins us now from Tunis, Dr. Jalal Rahim, the expert in the U.S. Asian Affairs and professor in the University of Gafsa. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome. And let me start off by asking you, do you think Joe Biden wants to leave the U.S.-China relations heated up before he leaves office by providing new military aid package to Taiwan, do you think?
Well, the policy of Joe Biden is not different from his predecessors and would not be different from from the next president. It is a well-established, concerted effort from the United States. By successive administrations, specifically since 1979, the passage of the Taiwan Relations Act by Congress. And since then, any administration, whether Joe Biden or anybody else, is bound by law, by American law, to defend Taiwan by all means against any, not necessarily military invasions, but even all attempts, all of coercion, even that would threaten the economic and social well-being of Taiwan, and not only security of Taiwan. So what Joe Biden has been doing over the last few months, because by the way, this is the fourth in 2024, this year, this is the fourth military aid package to Taiwan. The first one was in April, together with Israel and Ukraine. Second one was in April 2024. Second one was in September 2024. Third one was on December 13th. And the last one, which we are talking about today. So there are four American military packages, military assistance packages to Taiwan in just 1 year. This is almost a record in assisting Taiwan, supporting Taiwan militarily. And this is, of course, due to the what we call the backlog in the U.S. Commitments to Taiwan, to defend Taiwan, of course. And since COVID-19, that is 2019 almost, over the last 5 years, there has been a kind of a backlog in providing Taiwan with the necessary military equipment that is necessary and required to defend itself against any potential Chinese invasion.
Dr. Rahim, how do you see the U.S.'s continued military aid and arms sales to Taiwan affecting its relations with China in the long term?
Your report said a key phrase here. Taiwan is a red line for China. It is as a red line also for the United States. So given the choice, the United States would definitely and automatically pick up Taiwan over China. Taiwan is, as President Truman used to say 7 years ago, it's a kind of an unsinkable aircraft. And this was within the context of the Cold War, let alone today in the age of what we call Pax Americana and a strong effort and strategic vision by the United States to maintain and to perpetuate its dominance all over the world. And Taiwan is key here to the future of the U.S. Predominance in Asia. If Taiwan falls to China, the United States would suffer a lot. It would be unable anymore to defend its key allies and the strategic and historical allies such as Japan, Australia, and the Philippines. So this is besides the economic and technological value of Taiwan to the United States. But strategically speaking, Taiwan is key to the future predominance of the United States of America, as much as it is the case for any potential Chinese ascendancy to the world stage.
Dr. Haim, what do you think are the risks of China viewing the Taiwan question as a red line in its relationship with the U.S.? And how could this, do you think, influence the future diplomatic engagement?
For the Chinese, this is a matter of national honor. This is not new. Since 1912, first establishment or foundation of the Republic of China by the former national leader, former Chinese national leader, Sun Yat-sen. So since then, Taiwan and regaining Taiwan is a matter of national honor. For the current president, Chinese President Xi Jinping, it's a matter of the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. So to achieve this rejuvenation of the Chinese nation, Taiwan is the key. Taiwan is at the core of this kind of rejuvenation promised by Xi Jinping. So for the Chinese, Taiwan is a matter of life and death. It is indeed a red line. But when it comes to the future of the Chinese-American relations, if the Taiwan issue put aside, the two countries can coexist, can cooperate on a range of other international issues, such as regional security in Northeast Asia due to the North Korean nuclear issue, other areas of cooperation such as economy, such as technology, even political and geopolitical issues could be easily solved if we could see an American and a Chinese cooperation, even in Ukraine today. I mean, as far as Ukraine from China, but a Chinese-American cooperation over the Ukraine issue would help a lot stop this unnecessary conflict very soon. So put aside Taiwan, the future of the Chinese-American relations could be. I mean, has a very good. I mean, many areas of cooperation. But if
let me move on to and ask you: when Trump takes office, how do you think can the U.S. navigate its policy on Taiwan to balance its commitment to democratic values and the One China principle while avoiding conflict with China?
First, I mean, the values you have just mentioned, such as democracy and human rights, do not mean anything for President Trump. President Trump is a transaction man. He's a businessman. He comes from the business world, so he believes in political transactions, and he believes, wrongly, of course, believes that politics is like business. You can make transactions anytime about anything. That is not the case in international politics, especially when you are president of the strongest country in the world, and when you are competing with a very promising and a very strong and rising country like China, with a lot of potential to become a superpower in the next 10 to 20 years. When it comes to Taiwan, President Trump is expected to continue with the same strategic policy since 1979, as I mentioned, the Taiwan Relations Act of providing Taiwan with the necessary military equipment and firepower to defend itself against any potential Chinese invasion or even coercions. But remember that President Trump was the first American president in history to accept a phone call to congratulate him on his elections during his election win in 2016. And that time there was a President Tsai Ing-wen, the lady who used to be the president of Taiwan at that time, and she was the first Taiwanese president to give an official call to a president-elect in the United States of America, and that was President Trump. So
thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Jalal Rahim, and that was from Tunis, and the expert in the U.S. Asian Affairs. Thank you for insights and for joining us today. And that brings us to the end of this special coverage. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time for deeper analysis and reporting.